Okay, here we go. This presentation is dedicated to the most powerful force in the universe, the women. What I'm going to tell you is that a variety of sources give details about the structure and properties of an all-pervasive, it means it goes everywhere inside of us, right out to the distant galaxies, quantum information field that stores data of all kinds and that can energize a variety of anomalous phenomena, the kinds of things you folks talk about. And this information field is based on holography, it's fractal, it's tensegrous, it uses the mathematics of phi, or sacred geometry, and each of these components is worth a day-long workshop at least. So I can't go into great detail about each of them. I just want to give you kind of an overview. There's a great video on YouTube called Hacking Reality, a Layperson's Guide to E8. Is there an 8-dimensional engine behind our universe? And this beautiful actress takes us on a fun, visually exciting journey as she explores a mysterious, highly complex structure known simply as E8, a weird 8-dimensional mathematical object that for some strange reason appears to encode all of the particles and forces in our 3-dimensional universe. And those of you who are familiar with E8 probably know that things have advanced since E8, but this is the best I can do right now. When I saw this image of E8, I said out loud, gasp. I was quite impressed with it. And you'll see why, and I'll come back to this later on. So here's the movie star. Great for a quantum physics group to have a movie star to narrate their film. Fantastic. What a deal. Imagine opening your eyes and finding yourself surrounded by water and you cannot remember ever not being in that water. This is the way the film begins. Recognize that this is not about water, this is about space. So imagine opening your eyes, and, as we could do right now, and realize we are immersed in space. And we always have been, and we can't remember not being in space. The first question you might ask is, how did I get here? She says, you've always been there. What do you mean always? When did I enter the pool? You never entered the pool. You have always been in the pool. Okay, but where was I before I was in the pool? Well, that's the first question. There is no before in which you were not in the pool. There is no before in which we were not in the quantum information field. You have always been in the pool, always, and she turns to the camera and growls, always, to make an emphasis. So this next part is about my life, the rise and fall of a materialist scientist. Parts of this are emotional and very personal. I might cry, but that's okay, don't worry about that. Here's how I got here. Degrees in biophysics and biology from the University of Pittsburgh, postdoctoral work, Cambridge University in England, Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, University of Copenhagen, Northwestern University where I was a professor, and a staff scientist at the Marine Biological Laboratory in Woods Hole, published a bunch of papers in highly respected peer-reviewed journals from science to journals in my fields, Journal of Cell Science, and so on. And so I was a well-credentialed materialist scientist. I could out-credential lots of folks. Then the next part is about what happened, and this special blessing in my life has been Betty Wall. Dr. Betty Wall, who lives in Boulder in Woods Hole, Massachusetts. She does Rolfing and Jinshin Jitsu. She has written a nice book that people really like because it enables you to heal yourself using energy medicine, Jinshin Jitsu. Good stuff. Betty and I did a lot of things together. I just looked it up. We published 15 papers together or with other people. Betty saw something in a magazine about the possibility of going to Darjeeling and studying with the very venerable Kala Rinpoche, a Buddhist Lama in Darjeeling. And so intuitively she got that was a good thing to do. And she did it. She went there. And Darjeeling, they grow tea and they grow monks. The Rinpoche was not feeling well, and Betty had recently graduated from the Boulder School of Massage Therapy. She offered to give him a foot massage, and he said yes, and it made him feel better. So he decided to initiate her into the healing tradition of Buddhism, the purple blue Buddha, the medicine Buddha, described as having entered into a state of samadhi called eliminating all the suffering and afflictions of sentient beings. I don't know a lot about Buddhism. Most of what I know came from Ken Wilber. Somebody asked him, what can you do that the Buddha couldn't do? And he said, I can drive my Jeep. So meanwhile, here's what happened. It took a while for Betty and I to put the timing together, but this is what happened. The Rinpoche did a ceremony for her to initiate her, and he gave her some mantras, and they were translated from Tibetan into English. And he held his hands over her head, and she felt incredible bliss. Unbelievable. Her only thought was to share it. Meanwhile, at that moment, 7,500 miles away, I had an incredible dream. It's like I have a very clear picture of this dream. I was in the dream, I was in a yoga class, and all the students were on straw mats, and the yoga teacher came over to me, and he put one hand at the base of my spine and the other hand at the top of my spine. And in the dream, I went into total bliss. I woke up, I was, oh my God, what was that? It was incredible. Well, this is the yoga teacher of my dream. And how I found that out, a couple days later, I wanted to get books on biomagnetism, so I went to Harvard Square, to the used bookstore, and I asked, do you have any books on biomagnetism? The guy said, go downstairs. And on top of a shelf, priced but not shelved yet, was a pile of the books on biomagnetism, all you could want. Somebody had collected them and sold them to the bookstore. Well, that was easy. So I thought, well, what do I do now? And I saw a sign to the New Age and spirituality section, so I went in there and I looked up, and there was this book with a picture totally recognizable. I mean, how many people look like that? Of the yoga teacher in my dream. Oh, this, by the way, kind of dissolved my materialist philosophy. I thought I could explain everything by the laws of chemistry and physics and biology, and this was something else, what you might call anomalous. I was thinking about this the other day, though, and I was thinking, what is bliss? I have an idea what bliss is, and just an idea from my own experience. It's when all the circuits are working in my body. It's a total body experience for me. Everything is working, everything is connected to everything else. It's just delicious feeling. And I was thinking, how could that be transferred across 7,500 miles? I'm getting materialistic, realizing that our bodies are crystals. We are made of liquid crystals. Crystals are great resonant antennas, bidirectional antennas. They're used to tune radio receivers and transmitters and so on. Maybe while Betty was having this blissful experience, her body was radiating that experience, and I was picking it up because, I mean, who knows? Because we were so close and so connected, and it worked. And I remembered the founder of Naropa University here in Boulder, Trungpa, wrote this book, Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism. I was doing spiritual materialism. So what's the deal here? Am I materialistic or not? Or maybe I shouldn't bother thinking about it. Maybe it doesn't matter. And yesterday somebody did a little diagram of the connection between mind, body, and spirit. Maybe that's just a ridiculous thing to try to connect. Maybe that's all we are, is mind, body, and spirit. I've been to lots of lectures where people say, today I'm going to tell you about the connections between mind and body. I know that there aren't any connections between mind and body because the body and the mind are the same thing. And you can't connect something to itself. Anyway, that's what has been going through my mind. So the quantum information field. What are you talking about? An explanation for all of the anomalous phenomena we have come to know and love and talked about in this conference. I've even included Bengtson here as his own sort of, he's an anomaly. So there we are. And this is Indra's net, the Buddhist conception of reality in the background. And after thinking about this for a while, the pieces have started to come together. I get these emails from Quora, and Quora is where people ask questions and physicists answer the questions. And somebody asked a question about space and the structure, the fabric of space, and one of the physicists answered, space doesn't have a structure. There's no structure to space. There are no equations for it. Give me a break. It doesn't exist if there are no equations. If he wants equations, take a look at this book, The Geometric Universe by Roger Penrose, or this one, an overview of twistor string and quantum theory. Tons of equations. And I think this is important because when we get down to specifics of what these anomalies are doing and how they happen, we need these equations. So this is putting together the puzzle, the holographic universe, the fractal universe, the tensegrous, fabric of space, phi, or sacred geometry. And put these together in a few other things, and we've got a pretty well-defined, useful model. Sacred geometry I got into because I went to Barcelona and I met a fellow who developed this device for protecting people from electromagnetic pollution. And there's a small one. I have a small one on the back of my phone. I have this one that I carry in my pocket, and this other one takes care of my whole office. And there are lots of gadgets like this out there. What I liked about this was that this elderly gentleman had gotten this together totally intuitively, based on dreams and flashes of insight. I like that. Einstein said, the intellect has little to do on the road to discovery. There comes a leap in consciousness. Call it intuition or what you will, and the solution comes to you, and you don't know how or why. And I have to say that after that experience with Betty in Tibet, or in Darjeeling, my intuition has really perked up. And in fact, the fellow who invented this, they had tested it at 5 universities in Spain, and it works great. But none of the scientists who did the testing could understand how it works. So, Jim, can you explain how this works? I said, sure. I didn't have any idea. But I had total faith in my intuition that if I studied it long enough, I'd figure it out, and I did. And what I discovered was that it had sacred geometry. It had the flower of life on it, and that was part of the story, and I had to dig into what is the flower of life, and that took a while. Eventually, I got a t-shirt, and I got had a muscle tester, very experienced. This is the part of the lecture where I undress. Anyway, there it is. And an experienced muscle tester showed me that I'm stronger when I'm wearing this t-shirt. And the colors are important. Isn't that interesting? I have a black and white one. It works, but it's not as good as the one with the colors. How about that? Sacred geometry, well, after researching it and recognizing that this symbol has been found on temples, ancient temples, in every culture in the world. It's an ancient symbol. The ancients knew something that we don't seem to understand, and all of the great minds down through the ages have beat their brains out trying to figure out why this is such a powerful symbol. And I say it's the geometry of the quantum information field, and that's why it's so powerful, and that's what it has to do. So the mathematics of space is the golden ratio, or phi, and it's a specific number. And in 2010, a group of top-notch physicists from Europe reported a decade-long study showing that solid matter has quantum properties defined by the golden ratio, famous from art and architecture. The findings were published in the journal Science. Isn't that interesting? Here's what they did. They made strings of niobium atoms. These are one atom thick strings. These are magnetic atoms, and they plucked the strings as though they were guitar strings. And the frequencies that came out had the ratio of the golden mean. Resonant notes. The first two notes show a perfect relationship to each other. Their frequencies are in the ratio of 1.618, which is the golden ratio. And this reflects a beautiful property of the quantum system, a hidden symmetry, actually quite a special one called E8 by mathematicians. And this is its first observation in a material. And interestingly, there's another paper, this is from 2013, recognizing the similar ratio working for the radii, the atomic, ionic, and Bohr radii that are related to the golden ratio. Holography, every part of the fabric contains information about the whole fabric, encoded as, for example, by standing waves and by other things. Lots of books on holography. So the pieces of this puzzle I'm trying to put together to understand anomalies, they're all known to you, and they're a lot of detailed scholarly investigation. The holographic universe, Michael Talbot, awakening the holographic human. A lot of people think that the human body is a hologram. Fractality is recursive. Have you ever stood in an elevator that has a mirror on each side, and you look in the mirror and you see your reflection, and then you see the reflection of your reflection, and so on and so on? The pattern repeats itself in an infinite series of scales. All scales, as in a Mandelbrot set. And this is, oh, there it goes, the Mandelbrot. And this is from a YouTube video, which is very nice, the Mandelbrot set and fractal patterns. This is part of the project. My project from understanding this or putting this together is to figure out how Sheldrake's morphic field works. I think that the disgust that many scientists have had for Sheldrake is very poorly placed. He has a possible mechanism for the greatest unsolved problem in science: how you became you from a single cell. So I think the morphic field is in the quantum information field. Is my time?
Time for questions.
Okay, let me just go to the end. There's more. These are ideas of what it might look like. Too small to see, but on the basis of what we can discern from physics and studies of all kinds. An important breakthrough, I'll just give you this bit. This is from the recent discovery of gravitational waves. And this was a monstrous project involving lots of money and lots of scientists working hard and very involved instrumentation. And this woman, her name is Holly Brockelman, gave a TED talk. Her arms are representing the arms of the LIGO laser interferometer gravitational observatory. And here's what she says. You are matter. You move. All throughout life, you make gravitational waves. Every move you make, every choice you make throughout your life is making gravitational waves propagating away from you at the speed of light. And long after you are gone, that imprint you have made in the universe will exist. Everything we do is recorded as gravitational phenomena. And this is from a New Age journal called Physical Review D, and they are saying the same thing. The universe probably remembers every single gravitational wave. Okay, well, thanks.